Well, from Victorian politics, let's go to Queensland now. There's been some really interesting results in the latest Newspoll. Now, the state's Liberal National Party leader, David Crisafulli, is surging past the Premier Stephen Miles, on track now to deliver what would be the first change of government for almost a decade. Erin Molan was talking to David just a while ago there on Sky. The poll shows the LNP vote 8 points clear of Labor, 54 to 46. Joining me now to discuss this and more is our Friday regular, former Queensland Premier Campbell Newman. How confident are you that these poll numbers might be right?
Well, I'm mightily cheered up, Steve, and great to be with you by a primary vote in a major, credible poll showing the LNP, the primary, with a 4 in front of it, in this case 42%, bearing in mind we lost narrowly in 2015 with 41.3. So it is heartening to see. And it's heartening because I don't actually particularly agree with the strategy of the LNP. It's a small target strategy. It relies on, getting people to dislike the government, which has had about 4 really bad weeks, I've got to say. But I would like to know more, and I'm sure Queenslanders would like to know more about what the LNP would actually do. And should the LNP decide to change tack a bit and give us some more meat on the bones, I would predict they'd do a lot better than this, and it would be a convincing win in October this year. But look, greatly heartened by that news poll out today in the Australian newspaper.
You're in a position of winning government from opposition. How hard will it be now for the LNP not to get complacent? I mean, they're looking at Stephen Miles, who's not had a great start. Anastasia Palaszczuk's out of the picture. There's all sorts of problems within the state of Queensland and the southeast of Queensland. How do you stop yourself from getting ahead of yourself, I guess is my question.
Well, look, I think that is a challenge, and that's why I am advocating that on some of the key issues like youth crime, the health system, things to do with education, of course, cost of living, that the LNP, if they come out with really meaty announcements that get that nod from people, I think they will actually go ahead in the polls. I think they could improve that primary by 3 percentage points to 45%, which would make for a convincing win. That's what they should be doing, and I'd really urge them not to just keep biding their time and playing this small target strategy. Voters, Steve, deserve, at the very least, to know what your policies are. And the pressure will come on from the media, I'm sure, on the LNP to be more, to give us more detail about what they would do. Now, I would like to see that. I'm sure they've got great ideas. Well, let's see them, let's hear them, and let's see a campaign based on that and a contest of ideas.
Yeah, I reckon you're right. I think Australians right around the country, Campbell, are crying out for political leadership. We don't get it out of Canberra particularly well, and certainly the state premiers in a lot of the states are not doing a great job. Victoria, as we've just been discussing, is a basket case. I think Peter Malinauskas in South Australia does a pretty good job, but we need leadership. On that question,
he does indeed.
On national news, Penny Wong, he does do a good job. Yeah, I'm really impressed by him. Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong today, she announced that the Australian government is going to reinstate the $6 million funding, that's taxpayers' money, to this UN agency, UNRWA. Have a listen to what Penny Wong had to say.
Australia is unpausing our contribution to UNRWA. The best available current advice from agencies and the Australian government lawyers is that UNRWA is not a terrorist organisation.
Campbell, I'm not sure Australians will be all that happy about that. As we know, there was some suggestion that some members of this organisation were involved in those October 7 attacks. The US has still paused that money. They're not putting it back into UNRWA's pocket. What do you reckon?
Look, I think it's a bad move, and I think there's been enough information put forward about the activities of the staff in that organisation to have the Australian government really need to take a far more cautious approach and not provide the money. Now, the Minister Wong is saying that that they'll have safeguards and assurances will be given and that sort of soft soap. But look, at the end of the day, that's worthless. And until the UN particularly clean up their act and get UNRWA to actually clean itself up we can have no confidence about where that money goes. Now, I do get that the position that Wong's saying that there isn't anybody else who can distribute aid. Well, perhaps what we should be doing is forming a coalition, if you like, with other countries to get an organisation that has some credibility to distribute aid and to be in there and to be backing them. And we probably should have been doing that for some time.
The other thing I find interesting is that they've got 13,000 people working for that agency. Now, I know you want me to get interested in the Brisbane Lord Mayoral election tomorrow. Adrian Schrinner is tipped to stay in the top job. It's the biggest local government election we ever have anywhere in the country. You used to be the Lord Mayor. I know all of that. Who's going to win it?
Oh, I think the Lord Mayor will be returned. I think that's a likelihood. There are some wards in the city. We have 26 wards that will be fiercely contested, and there's some that are under pressure where I think that it's clear that the Greens will outpoll Labor. But that's actually happened before, Steve. It's whether they can actually get there overall with Labor preference to have Greens councillors going into the BCC. I hope that's not the case. By the way, the LNP have actually run some rather interesting and clever tactics during this campaign. For example, a scratchy has appeared in people's letterboxes across the city where, if you actually literally like a scratchy card and you scratch underneath it to find out what you get. And the thing about that is clever because people then, they just can't help themselves, even if they were a Green supporter. They're going, what are they saying they'll get? Well, it's, sort of higher rates or whatever, whatever the LNP was saying. So I think it was a fairly clever move by the campaign to do that and might get some people thinking about where they place their vote.
Just finally and briefly, the argument about immigration. You might have heard what I had to say at the beginning of the program. There's a big debate. Do we need, in a word, a national conversation about how big we want our country to be?
Look, I've been asked about this many years ago, and I have no problem with a big Australia. What I have a problem with is just shoveling people in without a plan. So I think, by all means, have that conversation about how we, if you like, grow and size our country. But let's particularly get into the nitty-gritty about how we plan for the future. And let's not try and have a centralised plan where government knows all. That never works. It's not like the Soviet Union or a glorious 5-year plan, but we do need to have an idea about where we actually accommodate these people, where the jobs are going to be created, how we create those new homes, and let's let the private sector go and deliver it. Because nothing appalls me more about the debate at the moment where all these politicians are suggesting interventions in the market to actually solve the housing crisis. And you know what, Steve, it's not going to work. The private sector are the ones who are nimble and agile. If the framework's right, if the land is there, we either vertical airspace or horizontal space, we will place those people. And similarly, if we have a better environment for business in this country, we do a better job of real job creation as opposed to jobs in the funded by the public sector or in the public sector. So let's have that conversation.